the first thing, these are my personal thoughts. I chaired this committee, but these are my personal thoughts. Not the thoughts of the committee or even my government, just my personal experience. And going through, it's really important, I can't stress enough, for any treaty to look periodically at whether it's achieving what it sets out to do. Is there anything else in your life that you would just sort of let run amok and not ever see if it's working? I mean, well, maybe we probably all do that, actually. it's probably something we shouldn't do. But in a treaty, like, I've been to so many meetings in my life. I know what they cost. People come from all over the world. Sometimes, if the meetings don't go well, people get actually angrier at each other instead of more cooperative. So it's super important to see, to check, to take the pulse, is it working? There are a lot of vested interests in not seeing if things are working, right? Or there's a lot of encouragement, new norms. Sometimes I feel like we've just finished negotiating a treaty and people want to already talk about what's the next treaty. We haven't even implemented this one. It's not even in force. So this is very important. And any kind of a treaty, doesn't matter whether it's about measuring pollution in the environment, or if it's another kind of treaty. It's always important to see whether your treaty is working. And obviously, you would set out a different analytical framework depending on the nature of the treaty. So that was my first thought. And as I talked about earlier, all treaties should be doing it, not just pollution treaties. And the process that we went through itself, because it was comprehensive, it reminded us of a few things that the treaty hadn't done, strengths and weaknesses, some surprising things, a lot of, there's probably a certain number of things I could have done on the back of an envelope just off the top of my head, having worked on this negotiation of the treaty and been to every COP. But there were also some things that came out that we hadn't expected. So it's a very useful process. This, I think, is going to be our big document is going to be a very useful document to parties, I hope, for those who work intimately with the convention, because we have compressed in one document all of the relevant COP decisions, all the activities that have happened since the beginning of the treaty into one document, along with all of the analytical charts and all this stuff. This is really some great stuff. Yeah. Like I said before, while some conclusions were really, pretty obvious to anybody working with the convention, the problem is, we were trying to think, and I think in a few places we were successful to, or I hope in all places, but we, trying to provide these value-added recommendations. But this is an important thing here, linking the analysis with all parts of the convention. So a lot of times you're in a little contact group and you're negotiating about waste, and it's this little waste issue. But looking at the whole convention, how everything's working together, you have a chance to connect the dots between all the parts that are integrated, or even between other treaties. So linking the waste provisions to what Basel's doing on POPs waste, for example. So this was a chance to give that overview.